nie wyślę! Nie odstupać! Nie odstupać!
The Demogorgon isn't just another monster on the horror shelf. It's the first horror that Stranger Things ever showed us, and the one that set the tone for everything that followed. Not a ghost, not a demon, but something worse. Something real in a way most monsters never are. It doesn't come from hell or outer space. It comes from right beneath our feet, from a parallel world called the Upside Down, where everything familiar is decayed, inverted, and hostile to life. In the show's universe, it's not named by scientists or governments, but by a group of kids, drawing on the only reference point they have, Dungeons and Dragons. In that world, the Demogorgon is a chaos god, the prince of demons. In Stranger Things, the name sticks, not because it's accurate, but because it fits. Born from the shadowy depths of the Upside Down, this creature had no name, until 11, during a psychic spying experiment, accidentally touched it. And with that single touch, that fleeting moment of connection between consciousness and darkness, the first gate was opened. Through that crack, it slithered into our world, not to wander, but to begin. In today's case file, we'll peel back the flesh, the bone, and the symbolism behind the very first being to emerge from the Upside Down, the Demogorgon, a predator, a pathfinder, and the earliest sign of a far greater nightmare looming just behind the veil. Origin and history. The Demogorgon's arrival wasn't part of a calculated invasion. It was an accident, a moment of psychic overreach that tore open reality. Inside the Hawkins National Laboratory, the U.S. government was conducting secret experiments under the guise of energy research. But the truth was far darker. They were using a girl, 11, born with telekinetic and extrasensory abilities, as a tool to spy on Soviet targets. What they didn't expect was that her mind would stretch beyond the physical world, and into something no one understood. During a remote viewing session, 11 reached too far and made contact. On the other side was not a spy, not a man, but a creature, tall, faceless, and waiting. The moment she touched it, reality fractured. The psychic link between them became a tear between dimensions, and through that rip came the Demogorgon. It didn't burst out in a blaze of destruction. It slipped into our world, quietly, methodically. It began by taking one girl by the pool, then a boy on a bicycle, then entire rooms of armed men inside the lab that summoned it. But the most terrifying part, it didn't just kill, it collected, dragging victims back into the Upside Down, preserving them in biological sacks, as if studying, or feeding, or delivering them to something greater. Later seasons would reveal the truth. The Demogorgon was never acting alone. It was an agent, a scout deployed by the Mind Flayer, the hive mind overlord of the Upside Down. Its mission, not to destroy, but to establish a foothold in our world. And in Season 4, the nightmare deepened. Far from Hawkins in a Russian prison deep in Kamchatka, the government had captured one. A living Demogorgon. Stronger, faster, and more vicious than anything seen before. They used it as entertainment, forcing prisoners to fight it in a gladiator pit. It was there that we finally saw what the creature was truly capable of. Not just a hunter, but an apex predator, engineered by nature or by something far more intelligent. And it had one goal: bring the Upside Down to us. Biological traits and behavior. The Demogorgon stands roughly 7 feet tall, its skin pale and raw, stretched tight over sinewy muscle like exposed tissue. It has no eyes, no nose, no ears, nothing that resembles a human face. Instead, its head unfolds outward into a 5-petal maw, each lobe lined with rings of serrated, needle-sharp teeth. The motion is almost floral, until you see what's inside. This flower head isn't ornamental. It's a hunting mechanism. Without eyes, the Demogorgon relies on echolocation, vibration, and scent. Its sensitivity to blood is extreme. Even the smallest drop can draw its attention. This explains its preference for hunting at night, where sound and smell dominate the environment. Once it locks on, its movements are silent, fluid, and terrifyingly fast. It doesn't need to stalk. It simply appears. One of the creature's most unnatural features is its ability to phase between dimensions. It can cross thin barriers, through walls, pools, glass, even small psychic fractures in space. In Season 1, it snatches victims from bedrooms, school corridors, and swimming pools, sometimes dragging them back to the Upside Down through rifts invisible to the human eye. What happens next is worse. The Demogorgon doesn't always kill on contact. In some cases, like Will Byers, it preserves its prey inside organic cocoons, attaching a long, fleshy tube to the mouth to keep the host breathing, or possibly gestating. The purpose of this incubation chamber remains unclear. Feeding, reproduction, mutation, all are possible and horrifying. Later seasons introduce its juvenile stage, the Demodog, a quadruped version that crawls before it walks. As it matures, it shifts into the bipedal terror we know. This evolutionary process mirrors that of amphibians or insects, suggesting the Demogorgon is part of a broader ecological system native to the Upside Down. Even in captivity, such as in the Russian prison facility, the Demogorgon exhibits the same behavior, hunting by scent, dismembering victims with speed and precision, and showing no signs of hesitation, emotion, or fatigue. In these controlled settings, it becomes clear this is not just a creature, it's a weaponized life form, perfectly designed for infiltration and extermination. It kills not for food, not for pleasure, but because that's what it was made to do. Abilities and powers. The Demogorgon isn't a mindless brute. It's a biological weapon with a terrifyingly efficient skill set, one that makes it a nightmare to confront in any environment. First, dimensional travel. Its most unique ability is its power to phase between dimensions. The Demogorgon can breach thin spots between the Upside Down and the real world, allowing it to appear in bedrooms, hallways, swimming pools, even through solid walls. It doesn't need a portal in the traditional sense. If the fabric between realities is thin enough, or disturbed by psychic energy, it can slip through like fog through a crack. This makes it a perfect infiltrator. You can't lock it out. You can't trap it in. It's already inside. Second, superhuman strength and speed. The Demogorgon can rip a grown man apart in seconds. It's shown tearing steel doors from their hinges, flinging bodies across rooms, and punching through reinforced glass. It also moves with shocking speed, able to close the distance between predator and prey in the blink of an eye. Its combination of size and agility gives it the presence of a wild animal, but the efficiency of a trained killer. Third, sensory targeting. Lacking eyes, the Demogorgon hunts through a heightened combination of echolocation, vibration detection, and olfactory tracking. It's drawn to sound, blood, and movement. Even the smallest disturbance, like a creaking floorboard or a drop of blood in a sink, can summon it. This makes it nearly impossible to hide from, and extremely sensitive to emotional energy and fear, possibly explaining why it was so attuned to Eleven's psychic signal. Fourth, rapid adaptation and resilience. The Demogorgon can endure gunfire, blunt force, and stabbing injuries with little sign of slowing down. Its skin may not be impenetrable, but its pain response is minimal, and its recovery is fast. It doesn't bleed out like a normal creature. It shrugs off damage and keeps coming. Even fire, one of its few weaknesses, doesn't destroy it easily unless applied with overwhelming force. 5. Organic weaponry. Its signature weapon is its head, a 5-petaled maw of muscle, cartilage, and serrated teeth that opens outward like a carnivorous plant. This isn't just a biting tool. It can consume whole limbs, crush bone, and rip through flesh in one movement. The jaws strike with the force of a bear trap, but faster and without warning. Its claws are long, razor-sharp, and curved for tearing, not slashing. Combined with its speed, it becomes a blender of muscle and bone in close quarters. Sixth, hive connection. Though it operates independently, the Demogorgon is likely linked, at least partially, to the Mind Flayer's hive mind. In Season 2 and beyond, creatures of the Upside Down are shown reacting to threats as a unified system, suggesting that even the Demogorgon may be taking orders from something greater, or, at minimum, relaying data back to it. This adds a layer of horror, the idea that it's not just hunting, it's mapping, reporting, preparing. The Demogorgon isn't the strongest monster in fiction, but it's one of the most evolved for its purpose: to find you, to break you, and to drag what's left of you into the dark. Weaknesses and limitations. For a creature that seems almost unstoppable, the Demogorgon does have vulnerabilities, but exploiting them isn't easy, and surviving long enough to do so is even harder. 1. Fire. If there's one confirmed Achilles heel, it's fire. In both the Hawkins lab and the Russian prison, fire has been shown to disorient, repel, and even injure the Demogorgon. This aversion may be due to its biological makeup. Exposed tissue, lack of external armor, and reliance on sensory membranes make it extremely sensitive to heat. But here's the catch. Fire only works when used immediately and with overwhelming intensity. A Molotov cocktail might buy you a second. A flamethrower might buy you 5. But unless it's consumed by flames entirely, it's coming back. Second, psychic disruption. The creature was originally drawn to 11 through a psychic link, implying that it's attuned to extrasensory frequencies or emotional signals. 11's abilities not only attracted it, but ultimately overpowered it. In Season 1, she used a full-force psychic blast to disintegrate the creature entirely, suggesting that it may be vulnerable to high-frequency neural disruption, energy pulses, or mental warfare. However, 11 is not exactly common. Third, dimensional dependence. While the Demogorgon can exist in our world, its biological rhythm is tied to the upside down. Extended periods away from that environment may destabilize its behavior, cause disorientation, or reduce its regenerative capacity. This is speculative, but when not actively feeding or hunting, the creature often retreats back to its native plane, possibly to replenish energy or re-establish psychic contact. It's not a conqueror, it's a conduit, and without its world, it may slowly degrade. Fourth, no strategic intelligence. Despite its lethal nature, the Demogorgon doesn't show signs of independent reasoning or advanced planning. It's not a thinker, it's a tracker, a hunter, a weapon. In tactical situations, it can be baited, trapped, or outmaneuvered, if the conditions are perfect. But most of the time, they're not. 5. Flesh and bone. Beneath the horror, the Demogorgon is still a creature of muscle, bone, and nerve. It can be hurt. Bullets slow it down. Blades cut. Explosions dismember. Its resilience is high, but not infinite. The problem isn't that it can't be killed. It's that by the time you figure out how, you're already dead. The Demogorgon is not the most powerful creature in fiction. It doesn't fly. It doesn't speak. It doesn't launch nuclear beams from its mouth. But in many ways, that's exactly what makes it so terrifying. It's raw, silent, and inevitable. This isn't a monster that announces itself with roars or grand entrances. It slips into your world like a virus, quiet, methodical, and nearly invisible until it's too late. And when it arrives, you don't get a second chance. You vanish. No body, no trace, just echoes. It's not just a creature, it's a presence. So, now that we've torn back the veil on the Demogorgon, its origin, biology, and place within a much darker system, the question becomes, was this just the beginning? Or was the real threat never the creature, but what sent it? We want to hear your take. Do you think the Demogorgon is still the scariest creature in Stranger Things? Or has the Mind Flayer, Vecna, or something else taken that crown? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's see which creature truly haunts the Upside Down the most. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because next time we're diving into something even more dangerous, more intelligent, and far less human. Thanks for watching.